Well, what a wonderful thick and fog day to you, survivor I bumped into during phase walk. My name is Bricky and welcome to the Dead by Daylight case file featuring the spirit, or better known as the Glassy Girl. Rin Yamaoka is a young Japanese student who attends a very expensive private university, even though it weighs a bit heavily on her family's finances. Unfortunately, her mother fell ill, and well, that weighs even more on the money side of things, and the father had to take up more and more time at his job to pay for all this, and had to work more and more and more, and his mental state began to deteriorate. He asked for a raise, perhaps some paid leave. Nope. You know what he got instead? He got blamed for a fault that wasn't his own and was immediately fired after 20 years on the job. And what did he do? Oh, he snapped, all right. Rin came home from her job a little late and found her mother carved up into pieces, arms and legs severed, her ribcage showing, flayed by the father and his trusty katana folded over 1,000 times. What proceeded to happen was Rin's father absolutely bodying her. He just kept going, sliced at her multiple times, hacked an arm off, hacked another section of the arm off, punched her in the stomach for good measure, yeeted her off of a second-story balcony, through a glass window, hacked off a leg or two. He went to town. He had the power of anime and the entity on his side. But laying there, covered in glass and missing almost all her limbs, she swore revenge on her father. She would make him pay, and before she died, a beautiful spider god answered her call. So now we have the spirit. So base stats of the spirit are those of a 110 movement speed killer. That goes with the lunge range, 24 meter terror radius, and of course the movement speed. Also, the spirit does this weird thing where she phases in and out of reality as she chases survivors. You can't see it happening on your end, but the survivors can. And while it has very few uses, it can sometimes catch people off guard. Moving on to the spirit's power, it's called Yamaoka's Haunting. This allows you to, after a short charge, enter an alternate reality, dimension, state of being, butthole, whatever, and grants you increased movement speed, but removes your ability to see survivors and remove their ability to see you. When you activate this, you will leave behind a husk that stays at your location and emits a terror radius until you come out of your phase walk. In order to track survivors, you can still see scratch marks and hear sound effects, but their visuals and blood trails are hidden. You also emit an odd phasing sound when near an enemy player in an omnidirectional fashion to give them warning that you're nearby. So how do you play the blueberry bitch or the glassy girl? Well, I'm going to discuss proposed changes for this killer later on in the video, but these strategies should mostly work regardless of the changes or not. So the spirit is one of the best killers in the game. It is my top 2 favorite killers, along with Demodago over there. Spirit relies mainly on chasing down survivors while relying on sound and map knowledge, as well as a few soft reads instead of the usual running with mouse 1. Your power makes it so that you move at incredible speed, so this helps a lot with map pressure, but it will also assist you in killing through the method of partly guessing and partly following where the survivors will become next, or will be next. At its base form, it's about a survivor trying to outwit the spirit by going where she doesn't think you will be, and the spirit trying to outwit the survivor by knowing that they're going to be there either way. However, this is offset in the spirit's favor. If we're doing betting right now, the spirit has about 70 to 30 chance odds, maybe a little bit higher depending on what perks you use. She will always have the advantage. Injured sounds, grass movement, scratch marks, and the ability to bump into you during phase walk all give her a solid chance of finding you. So, as a spirit, your job is to predict where the survivor will be, activate phase walk, and arrive there to get a nice stab off. This becomes much easier when they are injured, as their pain grunts are very easy to hear, and they may panic more than when they're uninjured. Look for moving grass or corn to discern enemy positions, and also a general idea of where their scratch marks are going. If the scratch marks have stopped, they may have either double backed or they have started walking and might be nearby. Also, your husk has many advantages as well. It's an actual physical entity, so it can be used to block doorways and windows, and it also emits a terror radius that will allow all terror radius based perks to still stay in effect. Plus, the phasing sound survivors hear won't be heard if they're still in your husk's terror radius, so it allows you to screw with them a little bit more. A big thing that spirits can do is also their standing still mind game. This makes it seem like you've entered phase walk when in reality you've just been standing still the whole time, and the survivor might end up trying to double back in order to juke you. then you get a free hit off of it pretty easily. However, some will see through this and run around and know what they're doing, but those are the more experienced players. And everything I've just said has been generic spirit information that almost everyone knows. It's really hard to discuss the spirit because she's so complex and there's a million different strategies you can do with her. That's kind of one of the reasons why I like her so much, is that the ability to constantly be using her power isn't always the same every time. There's a new way to use it in almost every single situation, depending on the survivor you're playing, the map you're playing, and what kind of build you're playing. However, right now, everyone has this really big hate boner for her right now, and it came out of absolutely nowhere. She got buffed right after coming out and hasn't been touched after that, and she's just kind of randomly the next Blueberry Hitler. It's very bizarre. So for this next segment, I'm going to teach you ways to counter the spirit, and then I'll talk to you about proposed changes for her. As a survivor, Iron Will. Iron Will. It is a hard counter. Iron Will makes it just so much easier for you to try to juke her, and she might still beat you, but trust me, just Iron Will. Spine Chill is also extremely good because you'll know if she's in her husk mode or not, so if she's ever trying to mind game you, you basically have a free win. For juking her normally, doubling back over scratch marks is very useful. This will confuse her a decent amount as she will keep following your normal trail without knowing of your deceit. Also, entering lockers or going over certain areas with quick and quiet is a great way to do it. I found that Dance With Me is also a huge help, or the Dance With Me and Lithe combo, because without scratch marks, she has no clue where you're going, and since she can't see blood trails, it makes it also that much harder. Also, lockers are good, but, you know, don't get locker caught, because that's risk reward. Also, this is my biggest pet peeve. Stop falling for her standing still game right when she comes out of her power. It's on cooldown, you big dummy. She can't go anywhere yet. If she pops out of the thing and then starts standing still to confuse you, just don't do anything. Another tip, be sporadic. Run back sometimes, run forward others, run right, run left, don't run at all. If this character is all about reads, then make yourself unreadable. How can someone beat something they can't figure out? And finally, being overly altruistic will really hurt you. Sometimes doing a bunch of gens is really your best bet. Giving her a ton of targets is not a good idea. Okay, now let me discuss my opinion here. Having good killers is a good thing. In this day and age, with the strength of Survive with Friends and the speed generators are completed, I want a good killer and not just a ton of meh killers. We get a bunch of just serviceable killers, okay killers. It's nice to have a good killer. Now, where does Spirit falter? Not in the strength side, but in the ease of use side. I love her high kill potential. I love how if I play her well and I play her right, I can demolish people. It's one of the few killers where I feel like I'm actually in charge of a match and I'm actually, you know, a killer and not at the mercy of others. However, where she does falter is that she can do this just a bit too easily. Basically, it's not hard enough to demolish people. This killer is supposed to be the hardest in the game. Not mechanically the hardest like the nurse is, but utilizing a bit of mechanical skill, but also great reads and outplays. She's supposed to be the hardest. But survivor pain sounds, bumping into people, prayer beads, and other factors like Strider just make it way too easy. I want to preserve her power potential, but decrease how easily she can pull it off. So I suggest 4 major changes. Change 1. Remove the ability to bump into survivors during phase walk. These grant cheap hits and just aren't that fun to deal with. If Freddy could walk through people, hopefully the engine will allow her to as well. Change 2. Make survivor pain grunts omnidirectional. The spirit's phasing sound is omnidirectional for survivors, forcing them to guess which way she's coming from. It should be the same for her, so she can't just go like a heat-seeking missile. It adds a bit more to that read and skill factor. You know someone's injured, you know they're near you, you just don't know which way. Are they juking you? Are they still just running forward? How exactly are you going to deal with this? Change 3. Make prayer beads ultra rare and change mother-daughter ring to regular rare, or just purple. This is self-explanatory. Prayer beads are just too good to be a purple. And finally, change 4. Add a slight delay to her power recharge, maybe 1 or 2 seconds. It begins recharging literally after coming out of phase walk. A small delay would make each use more meaningful. Nothing too strong, just a little bit of a delay. Overall, I think this will make the spirit far more fair to play against. She still maintains her high kill potential, but players will need to work harder to get there, and that's the kind of character she should be. Very high risk, very high reward. And unlike the nurse, where you are basically screwed, at least survivors will have ways to beat her. So a good survivor player can beat a spirit player if they are better than her. Whereas with a nurse, it's kind of like a, well, she's gonna catch up to me eventually, just how long will it take? And now that insane mouthful is over, let's talk about her teachable perks. Noed's little brother, don't touch that totem, and Enduring's best friend. Rancor is top 5 favorite perks, one of my favorite guilty pleasures. It's like a mini bitter murmur with some insurance at the end of the game. Do I think it's a little mean that the obsession has a giant, hey, get fucked sign above their head? Yeah, a bit. Is it fun? Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it is. I'm very guilty for using it. Hex Haunted Grounds is a fun idea, no doubt. Problem is just the time frame. 60 seconds feels too short, and you have no clue where anyone's gonna be when it's activated, unless you just happen to know exactly where both the totems are and which one gets removed. I prefer either keeping both totems alive instead of both going down when it's cleansed, or make it last until the first insta down. That's my 2 cents. Finally, Spirit Fury is an okay perk on its own and a really good perk with Enduring. Basically a free hit every 3rd pallet. I wish it was better on its own though. For recommended spirit perks, or just perks you should use on her, if you want things catered directly towards the spirit, Strider and Predator are the big ones. I consider Strider and Predator kind of like training wheels. I feel that playing Spirit with Strider is just unfair. It's just kind of BS, and I don't think you should do it because it's just a little bit too strong. But if you're new to the Spirit, Strider and Predator, great training wheel perks. Other than that, lots of perks that really help you out with lots of map pressure. Barbecue is, of course, really useful, but just knowledge of where people are. Getting into fights is your most important thing. So small stuff like, I mentioned barbecue, but things along the lines of, say, thrilling tremors, so you know which generators are currently being used. And anything that gives you a nice bit of map pressure or tracking like that is super useful. If you'd like a meme build, I do Totem Protector Spirit. Run 4 totem perks, one of them being Thrill the Hunt and Prayer Beads, and every time someone touches a totem, go and grab them. It's pretty evil. And of course, let's use the Spirit's Mori, that one Japanese meme. So that's the Glassy Girl. I honestly feel like she gets a worse rap than she deserves. I'd much rather die to a spirit than a nurse or some of the other killers with insane add-on combinations. Plus, bullying a baby spirit is almost as easy as bullying a baby nurse. Maybe I'm just not a naturally angry guy and I don't just scream at the high heavens over particular killers, but with a few changes, I think we could have a really damn good killer. All she needs is that little push. Until next time, thank you for watching this DBD case file. If you'd like, you can check out the merchandise store for the Dr. Shock T, available now, and 10% off with the promo code STAB at checkout. My name has been Brick, and be a little bit nicer to the blueberry bitch. At least a little. She did, like, lose all her limbs. Alright, bye-bye.